No line in front of you.
KJ and Lyons, WEEI. Thank you so much for hanging out. Yeah, think about how bad it is, John, where you're saying, man, they're missing Cole Strange, and as bad as Cole Strange has been, this Patriots offensive line is going to be something else.
And the best part, KJ, is that song we just heard is actually the second best KJ song we'll hear tonight because Just a Jag is coming up later.
Well,
and
see,
I know it's a bit.
That's a wonderful tease, yes.
I know it's a bit. It's not a full parody, but Just a Jag is the best one you've ever come up with. You got to put that on your Spotify page. KJ's parodies.
You know what? Technically Odyssey goes against Spotify, so I don't want to go against those who pay
wherever
me.
you need to put it.
Yeah,
so
like Death Row is the label that pays me.
That's true.
But
you don't want to
yes.
be on that East Coast hip hop.
There you go.
You're with Dre and Suge Knight.
I just saw Tupac 2 minutes ago. What happened? No.
Hopefully it wasn't at a casino.
But look, turn your head too quick, and I hate to say it, Brissett and possibly May could find themselves in Suge Knight's front seat of his car. Just absolutely just riddled. And that's my concern with this team moving forward is, and I think it also goes into why you never really were going to put Drake May out there is because, hey, if Drake May goes down early in the season with an injury, right? Because think about it. They say the healthiest day at any NS. I would love for the Greg Hill Show to ask Ty Law, when was your healthiest day in the NFL? And they will all tell you the day before I played a game.
Yeah.
After that, it was never the same. So you don't want to do that to your future, potentially go down, and then Jacoby Brissett really be the quarterback for the entire season.
Yeah, look, and I've said this basically since he was drafted, that I would not have played. When he was drafted originally, I did a show the night after here, and I said I would not play May until either Halloween or Christmas, right? That was my original projection, right? That
Christmas is a long time, I would say.
Right, no, but hear me, like the Week 9 against Tennessee game, or that week kind of 15, 16 Arizona-Buffalo range. I think he's done enough this summer to up that timetable, right? So from where I was, however, I still would not play him right away, and I think they made the right decision for a couple of reasons, right? Number one is his own development. I think what's getting lost in all this discussion is, yes, he's gotten better this summer, but he still has some things to continue to get better and work on, right? Like, it's not like he just magically became a top 20 starting quarterback in the league overnight, right? He got better and better all summer. He's still got things to work on. But also, take that aside, where the Patriots are at on offense, like, they have, by PFF standards, the worst offensive line in the NFL. Okay,
I'm sure the receiver core is not far behind.
If you believe PFF or not, I like PFF, but whether they have them rated as the worst, just my eyes tell me they're down near the bottom.
I like PFF too, especially when I can't get any.
And the the receiving core, right? So the receiving core. Kendrick Bourne's their best receiver. He's going to start the season not playing, right? And I like Jalen Polk, but that's a rookie working his way in.
Cole Strange might be the third best offensive lineman.
And then you have a running back group that I think is good. That's good enough to win. But then an offensive coordinator that hasn't called plays full time since 2009. So people always are like, well, what difference is 4 or 5 weeks going to make? Well, it actually can make a huge difference, right? Whether people want to admit it or not, 4 or 5 weeks in an NFL season, your offensive line can improve. Now, I know with this line, there's only so much of a ceiling there, but it can improve at least a little bit. Your receivers can get more used to, especially your young ones, playing in games. Your offensive coordinator who hasn't called plays full times in 15 years might kind of figure out, hey, what am I good at calling? What am I comfortable with? What are we good at? What do I need to make sure I have ready? So that way when May does start, whether it's week 5, week 9, whenever, your offense is in a better place than what it was in now. Because I think you can agree, KJ, if their offense is in the same place as what we saw in the joint practice against the Eagles or the game against the Commanders, that's not an environment a rookie quarterback should be.
You mean what we've last seen?
Yeah, right. That's not an environment a rookie quarterback should be playing in.
617-779-7937, text line 37937. Join the conversation with KJ and Lyons, the most underrated and undervalued show in America.
Yeah, so what do you usually say? It's like a 20-pound show in a 5-pound bag?
20-pound show in a 5-pound bag. So I mean, look.
Tonight, an hour and a half, we're like a 20-pound show in a 2.5-pound bag.
Yeah, there it is. And you know, is it Zach, our producer, is it Zach that knows the local, the little spot around the corner from here? Is it him or was it Jacob that admitted? If you've ever followed the KJ and Lyons show on weekends, it's just kind of like it's like vaudeville, a bit of it. John is the serious guy. He's the one. The rest of it's vaudeville.
KJ's the radio pro.
Oh, yeah, well, you wait until I tell you about a story in Kansas City with a guy named Fred and a kid named Chris and KJ in the room. That's coming. But look, let's look at the schedule, and let's see where you say week 9 that Drake May jumps in.
Right now, I'm thinking week 5 against Miami at home.
Wow, you've moved it up.
Yeah, but that's my point.
Christmas in week 5 or 2.
Right, so I was
2
originally
months.
I had Christmas in the back of my mind. Originally, I was much more like week 9 against Tennessee on the road November 3rd, right? I think he's played good enough. I'm open to week 5 against Miami on October 6th.
I'm going to say week 7. And
in London, right?
Yeah, in London, right? Because I think, one, it takes away because that's the crazy thing about those London games. Yeah, you could say because the Jags have been going there every year that it's a Jags home game. I would say no. You're going to see a lot of Patriots jerseys there because of the heavy fan base that would go to Germany and some of the London games as well. So it would almost be like a 50-50 crowd. I would almost, maybe a little bit more towards the Jags, right? But I think it's going to be it's such a neutral crowd that people are just going to appreciate that you're there, and that'll be a good environment for Drake May. So I think that's the good starting point for him. But here are the key weeks, I think, for the Patriots, and I think they could win 7 games. Week
7?
2, they could 7.
All right.
This is crazy, right? No, but follow the logic, okay?
Right.
2, 7, 9, 10, 11, 13, and 15. Now you're like, okay, they're going to go on a win streak? This is possible because look at it. Week 2, I believe they can beat Seattle with the new head coaching staff. They're going to be coming across from the West Coast to the East Coast, playing a 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time game. And do you really think that Geno Smith is so lights out that the Patriots defense can't handle him?
No, I don't.
Okay,
I don't think the Patriots win that game, but I understand your logic.
Okay, so because all we could go with is really just how can you logically get there without just saying it just to try and grab noise, okay? Week 7, as I mentioned, in London, that could be a neutral situation. You don't know where Jacksonville is at that point. I think they're going to have a weird season. We've got go under or go over. That's coming up in 15 minutes. I think Jacksonville might be that team that you continue to see some slip, okay? In week 10, you got Titans. That's a bad team.
Yeah. Oh, I like, so that's the thing. Like, if you look at that week 9, 10, like all that stretch, like the Titans are bad. Chicago's unpredictable. You know?
Right. That's a rookie. Like if you said if there would be something advantageous for the Patriots to step into would be a solid defense going up against a rookie quarterback. I know there's a lot of hype with Caleb Williams, but if he's already running around in preseason, I'm wondering, is he really taking in his reads the way he should be? And what is it going to look like when the game speed hits? That's why I say, hey, look, out of May and out of Williams and out of Daniels, I think by sitting May just a little bit longer could potentially give him the better of the career of those 3 guys just because of using caution early on. So you're like, okay, KJ, you think they'll beat the Rams? And I ask you this. Is there a chance that Matthew Stafford may be hurt by the time you get to week 13?
And I also think with the Rams, like, again, I don't know if the Patriots will win that game specifically, but there's no Aaron Donald anymore. And I think people are glossing over how big a loss that is for the Rams. I mean,
yes.
That's the best defensive player in the NFL. And I know the Rams have some nice young pieces, but as I said, the best defensive player in the NFL retired. Like, that's a big loss.
But if there's no Matthew Stafford, hello, Stetson Bennett. And if you're telling me you're going up against Stetson Bennett,
isn't he still in college?
No, Stetson Bennett.
No, I'm not sure. Yeah.
He's like the guy at Miami who's in his 9th year in college. It's like let's just call it what it is. You're in college for 9 years because you can buy beer for the team, right?
Yeah.
So the Colts in week 13, really, aren't you going up against the rookie quarterback all over again? You know, Anthony Richardson is really they're still trying to figure out what his story is.
And it could be cold weather at Gillette that day.
There you go. And then the Cardinals, which is going to be the most fascinating game because you're like, okay, here are 2 teams that you would say potentially could be evenly matched, and the defense could get to Kyler Murray. You would be obviously worried about Marvin Harrison Jr., what he could do. But you would figure that after going on this run in weeks 9, 10, 11, and 13, that this Cardinals game in week 15 may be the 7th game they win, but then would lose the rest of this. So there's 7 games with some type of logical thought behind it. Look, Vegas has the over at 5.5. If you play it at 5.5, you can get plus money. So Vegas thinks that maybe 4.5. I think it's closer to the 5.5. So if I was like, look, if you want to play plus money, play over 5.5. Believe they'll get 6 wins and either lose to the Rams or the Cardinals. They'll still have 6 wins. I think they can beat these other teams. It's just that how is the fan base going to feel with only one win after 6 weeks.
Yeah, and you know how it is, KJ. Every year, there's going to be one of these teams on the schedule that all of a sudden we're like, oh, wow, they're really good, and we didn't expect it. But then there's going to be another team that's like, oh, wow, we thought they'd be good, and they really fell off. Right? It happens essentially every year, so they're going to run into that too. And I think you're right, because that's the issue with this Patriots schedule. Like, you look at the first 6 weeks, all 6 of those teams you could say is a level better than the Patriots. And I'm not fully going against your Seattle logic, but just on a neutral site, like that team is a playoff level team. They're a cut above the Patriots. Cincinnati's a Super Bowl contender. The Jets could be one with Aaron Rodgers. San Francisco just lost the Super Bowl in overtime. Miami fades down the stretch every year, but it feels like they start out 5-0 every year under Mike McDaniel. They're always good early. Houston was just in the divisional round. Like, all those teams, you could make a case are a legitimate level above the Patriots before they even get to that stretch you were talking about, where there, I think, are some wins on the table.
Did you hear me mention them beating any AFC East teams?
Not off the top of my head.
Not at all. So literally they could go 0-6 in the division, and I still could see how they could win 6, possibly 7 games. So to me, that would say, hey, this is a team that has a good foundation to build off of. I think Drake May gets in there in the London game, because by that time you would have had enough of the bellyache, right? I think it's going to get really loud after week 5. So that's why I can see where your week 5 number comes in, where people are like, get Drake in there. And you're kind of like, you know what? Where's the good launching point for him? So let's say Drake May gets in there in week 7, okay? And according to these wins that I said that they would have, they would win in week 7, 9, 10, 11, 13, and 15 with Drake May. You would almost feel like, hey, this guy might be in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. If you look at how the Rookie of the Year has kind of worked when you've given it to quarterbacks, right? Like, if he performs well and they get wins in those games, it's much more than what you've expected for the team overall. And you've already gone through your dark period in the first 7 weeks of the season. So that's why I say there could be some real success for this team. It's just that if people can go through the growing pains of the first 7 weeks of hearing this and that and so forth and not winning any division games, hey, if you want to play it, plus 400, 4-1 odds that the Patriots don't win a division game in the AFC East.
And I think
so $10 would win you 40.
And I think the placement of that Week 14 bye week is interesting, right? Because if you start him Week 7, right, that means he can play, 7 games, then he has the bye week. So he can kind of, 7 weeks of what is he good at, what is he not good at, what does he have to work on. Then you have that bye week to kind of reset. You have 4 more games to see what he corrected, what he didn't, and then you kind of have the offseason to hopefully correct, all the other glaring flaws from there. So that's their placement of the bye week to me is interesting as well, because I think it comes at a time, and then you come out of the bye week against a bad Arizona team, and then you have that difficult last 3 games. But it comes at a time where I think you can kind of see, all right, what is this guy good at? What do we need to fix? And give him an opportunity to do that before that kind of tough last 3 games.
Wasn't it a couple of years ago the bye week was like week 9 or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. If it was if the bye week this year was week 9, I would say that's where you would make the change to Drake May, right? But as you mentioned, because it's week 14, you can't say, okay, we're just gonna get lambasted for 13 weeks and then go to Drake May for the last 4, knowing that two of those games are division games. So look, you can kind of give them a soft lead in, and then take, like if you get those wins and you lose those last couple of games, you know that those other teams are possibly playing for playoff spot location. And then I think the Bills may even be one of those teams that might be even playing to get into the playoffs. So they're going to be playing with urgency. You say, okay, for a young quarterback, now he's going to get a real good competitive game from a division opponent. That's going to mean something, and they're going to give him everything. But yet he's had some notches on his belt where he's seen wins and some losses. So I think he'll be ready. There's part of me that thinks he's ready now, but I think the perfect landing place for him would be week 7.
Can I give you a little sneaky conspiracy theory here, KJ?
I love a conspiracy theory, brother.
So you keep mentioning
brother?
that London game, and you were talking about their middle of the season bye week. And I've been thinking about this for a while.
Mac Jones.
This is probably this may be unprecedented. At the very least, it's highly unusual. They don't have a bye week after the London game. Like almost every team that plays overseas, London, Germany, they always have a bye week the week after. This is somebody text or call, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's unprecedented. At the very least, it's highly unusual. And I think
didn't it happen to Baltimore last year? Baltimore didn't have a bye. They chose not to take the bye week and played immediately the next week.
If that's the case, then that was their choice, right?
That was their choice,
I think it's a
right?
team decision.
So there's two things about this that I think might be at play here. One, I think this is also the NFL telling you stink, and they're not worried about you needing extra rest after that. But two, this might be, and with Baltimore, a sneaky test, little backhanded test by the NFL of the viability of putting a team in London in the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I don't think
because
so. Can I jump right into that theory?
If you can play the next week and still be okay, and play a few weeks after that, still be okay, then it kind of helps them out with that.
Yeah, but that's such a competitive edge. I think you have to keep it within the 3 time zones, right? Because if that's the case, then put one in Honolulu,
right?
And
but
still
if
keep
they
it
play,
in America.
like if you had a team play in London and then tell them, all right, your next 4 games are going to be like a Midwest
on the
trip,
road,
and you play like at Cleveland, at Cincinnati, at wherever, like,
so you're not home for 4 weeks. That's such a competitive disadvantage.
It's the NFL, man. They care more about money than anything. We know that.
Okay, so you can do that by saying, okay, we're going to move to 18 weeks. Now, I think if anything, they should move to 19 weeks, right?
No,
I think
they should go back to 16 games.
No, here's why. Because
I hate 17 and I hate 18.
But here's no more of there are 500 team on the fence. Either you finish 8-9 or 9-8, or if you get to 17 games, either you finish 10. What would be 10-9 or 9-10? Like there's no candy ass and halfway. My foot's in one side and it's on the other side. No, like either you have a winning record or a losing record. I do like that with the 17 games, but I just think putting a team 5 hours ahead of you in the time zone does not. It's a competitive disadvantage. Mexico City, safety disadvantage. Brazil, you're already hearing what Slayton is already saying about going down to Brazil. That's a little unsafe.
You couldn't pay me to have this show down in Brazil.
You could pay me. Now,
right,
when I was
so you
single,
go down there, I'll stay here.
Oh, when I was single, we could do KJ and Lyons every day in Rio. Now, there might be by the time we get to year 3 in the show, I might have 7 kids working on the show, all under the age of 3. But my point being is I think you have to keep it in this 3 time zone construct, right? Because you have to think about television. You have to think about the Los Angeles audience, right? Because think about it. A 9:30 game that's being played in the East Coast is at 7:30 in L.A. L.A. is already lazy about getting up to going to anything. They're not up for a 7:30 game. So that's the thing that I can't see. You could just go 5 hours and say, okay, this team's going to play at 9:30. I mean, because if it's about playing, as many games as you want, then hello to the Friday game, and they can play them just as long as you don't play them in America because, it's against the rules to play an NFL game 50 miles within a high school football game on Friday night. So it goes against that trust rule. So that's why this Friday night game is in Brazil. But if you think, hey, live from Toronto, it's the NFL playing neutral site games, I would rather see that than to see a team sitting in London, because then you're going to have another team that's going to be based over there just so that way you can have games in regular time over there and at least someone else have that same competitive advantage. You just can't be like one team that just sits over there and then, comes over here to America for 6 weeks in a row and playing games. That's a disadvantage.
Just keep it in the back of your mind. I think
okay, brother.
The NFL puts money first.
I mean, if COINTELPRO was real, why couldn't this be real? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
All right, KJ Lyons continues next, 617-779-7937. Text line 37937. A new game called Get Over or Go Under. NFL team totals next here on WEEI.